Time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Sheff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in greater West Bloomfield. West Bloomfield High School is still celebrating an exceptional kickoff to their football season, as last Thursday their Lakers took the field for the first time this season and absolutely dominated, coming out with a blowout win over the Dearborn-Fordson Tractors 37-0. Our own Tyler Kieft recently stopped by West Bloomfield High School to talk with Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers to hear his thoughts and reflections after an exciting first week back.
I'm Tyler Kieft alongside West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers, picking up win number 16 in his third season at the helm at West Bloomfield High School. Now looking to number 17 this Friday, as it's rivalry week. Southfield A&T coming into town Friday night at 7 o'clock. Always an interesting matchup. They're kind of in a difficult spot these last couple of years. They come off a championship. Last year, a big rebuilding year. So far this year, those growing pains still present, but you can never count out the Warriors. What are you looking at from their team and prepping for as you head into week number 2?
It's always an emotional game for us, like on both sides. You know, I know they'll be amped up, ready to go, and so will our kids. A lot of them have known each other for the majority of their life, if not all their life. So, yeah, there's a lot goes into it, and we know they're big and strong, and their coach, McKenzie, does a really good job. He's a good coach. He's a good man, and we'll have them ready to go.
Losing 8-43 last week against East Kentwood. They're going to come in with a head of steam. And they got a veteran team, too, in some pretty key places. A couple of big returning O-linemen. Kenny Brooks on the defensive side. He's got a lot of varsity reps under him as well. And then they come back, too, with their quarterback, Jeremy Porter, who's had a pretty good, solid varsity career. So there's a lot to prepare for coming into week number 2, looking into this OAA competition. The good thing is you get a little bit of that OAA competition. How important is a week like this, cross-division, to get ready for the thick of the local team season?
Oh, it's huge. It's really important. So, I mean, I know our kids will be ready to play just because it's Southfield and the name alone, but we just got to keep our momentum going because everything you said is true. Quarterback's a great athlete. He's got experience. Their lines are big and strong. So, in a way, they look similarly to Fordson last week. They can put some athletes out there, and they got big, strong kids. So, it's on us to be at the top of our game.
And it's easy, too, when you have a big week number 1, even as you get later into that game, 28-0, 35-0, certainly 37-0, to take your foot off the gas a little bit, maybe lose your focus, penalties come into play. If you have that happening in week 1 and when you're up that big, it's one thing. It's another thing if it bleeds into week number 2. In terms of discipline, especially in an emotional game like that, how important of a factor does that play in to a matchup like Southfield A&T?
Oh, huge. Every year, that discipline and doing things the right way is kind of paramount whenever you play them. Like I said, it's emotional. It's emotional before the game, and it's definitely emotional during the game.
West Bloomfield versus Southfield A&T. They won big last year against the Warriors, looking to do the same and open up their season 2-0 as they head into the OAA Red Division play. And that's the other big thing about this. You get those 2 weeks to begin the season to really refine what you've been working on in camp and get ready for the OAA Red Division, which quite literally came down to the buzzer last season. How much more of a factor does that make it in preaching to your team how important every single week is, especially as you're getting ready for divisional season?
Well, I think that's the benefit of having a really tough schedule every year with the strength of our division is that it puts such an emphasis on each week. And that's why OAA red teams, there's always one that makes runs in the playoffs because pretty much all season we've been kind of grinding every single week. You take a week off, you're going to lose. And obviously when you translate that to the playoffs, if you're lucky enough to make it, if you have a bad week, you're done. So we get kind of used to it, I guess, the mentality of having to be ready to go each week. And you're having those 5 days to put your best product on the field.
Every week you want to see something new come onto your team that you can add to the plus column, that you can look at as this is rock solid, this is something we can strategically move into the Lake Orion game, the Clarkston game. We look toward the end of the season, games like Roseville, and certainly you hope to have those elements in the playoff time. After what you saw in week 1, what are you hoping to see develop into a solid element of this team across all 3 phases in week number 2?
Yeah, we had some special team stuff definitely to clean up where we gave up some yards, not in the return game, but in our own return game, just not fielding the ball like we should. So that's one big thing for me, because as the schedule gets harder and harder, you can't give away 20 yards at a time on special teams. And I don't know, just kind of some of those mental mistakes I mentioned earlier, we want to see those decrease each single week, and obviously hopefully get to a point where you're not making any, and that should come with more game reps and a little bit more comfort and confidence.
Every year we talk about the history of this matchup. We talk about the social element of it. You mentioned not only is it a rivalry, these kids have history. They played junior football together. They've grown up together. They've known each other their entire lives. How does that really factor into, of course, game day, but even the preparation, knowing that you're a few days out from going up against their friends at Southfield A&T?
I mean, it's definitely good and bad. They know a lot about each other on both sides, I'm sure. But also, that can kind of lead to some overconfidence where it's like, oh, I know them, I know what they can do. It's like, no, man, like they're a year older, they're a year stronger too, and they can still be a different and a better player than they were a year ago, just like we think a lot of our guys are. So there's a little bit of familiarity, obviously, and you got to find, I guess, the strengths with that and not let overconfidence get in your way.
You win the state championship, everybody's hunting you down. You have a couple of down years following that, one down year, and then you start off a little bit rough. People start to let their guard down. You can't do that if you're the Lakers on Friday against Southfield A&T. Coach, your final thoughts as we reflect on week number 1, put that in the rearview mirror, and look toward a tough week number 2 as we head into OAA play.
Yeah, well, the result week 1 is about as good as you could have wanted, but we're hoping for the same thing week 2 and trying to build some confidence going into our league slate. So we just got to do things our way and do it the right way, and we'll give it our best on Friday.
Those close matchups last year were a big difference maker for the Lakers. This is where you refine your game so that when those close matchups come up this season, you put those mostly in the win column. Coach, thanks as always.
You got it.
That first game was exciting, but I'm already hungry for more. You can head on over to CivicCenterTV.com to watch the full first episode of This Week in Laker Football to hear additional interviews, including one with Lakers quarterback Jackson Carver. And things are only just getting started for the West Bloomfield Lakers as they prepare for their next game against Southfield A&T. Kickoff is Friday, September 5th at 7 o'clock. And make sure you tune in to Civic Center TV to watch Tyler Kieft and Matt Catoni call the play-by-play for another exciting game. Last week was also the start of the West Bloomfield school year, which meant it was time for one of the most celebrated events in the community, Family Fun Night. Everyone came out to support the West Bloomfield School District and to support the many heroes of our township as well. I was there to hear from several people on why this event is so important and what it means to them.
This is truly a great event. We had a short little splash of water, which made it even more fun, but this is an opportunity for all of the local community groups to get together with the community itself before a great football game, and I hope we win tonight. We should, but it really is a lot of fun, and the weather didn't slow anything down at all.
But what is it like to see so many people coming out here tonight to celebrate the school district and to celebrate the start of another great school year?
I would say it's a very exciting time because it's family fun night. I mean, the families come out here, enjoy family fun time, and it's just very, very nice and overwhelming to absolutely enjoy the company of others.
How great is it to have the community reach out and celebrate people like you and the heroes?
Heroes is an odd word for most of us that do our job. But you've got some Air Force folks down there, you've got the police down here, you've got the fire service down here, you've got all of the public and first responders here tonight. And most of us don't look for thank yous, but it does feel really good when every once in a while they say, hey, we appreciate what you do. For most of us, it's just a calling and we're happy to do it.
You know, the men and women that help keep us safe and protected are integral to make sure West Bloomfield is what it is, which is a safe and vibrant community, and we want to make sure that we respect and honor them for the work that they do.
What do you hope are the biggest things everybody takes away from being here tonight?
One thing only, that we are Laker Nation. For us, what we want to do is connect every single person in our community, from kindergarten or preschool all the way up through our seniors, and then the adults in our community as well, with our high school campus. You know, we're a central hub for the community, and we want to make sure that our students feel safe, comfortable, and excited to be Lakers.
Even as a student as me, sometimes I can feel like, oh, nobody's really looking at our school, or nobody really likes our school, because I guess that's how the mentality of is. I've been in it for 4 years now, and I get that notion that, like, well, I'm the only guy, I'm going through this, nobody really sees my, like, effort that I put in it. I need someone to at least say that, hey, this school is cool, you're doing something really great, and seeing all of this rally around my school, it really gives me a purpose, like I should do more and do more for my community.
It certainly was a very fun event at West Bloomfield High School, and yeah, there was a little bit of rain at some point, but that did not slow anything down. It was such a fun night, and it's sure to be an incredible start of another incredible school year. An informative event is coming up in a few weeks for aspiring authors looking to learn how to get their books published. The Secrets of Publishing panel is set to take place on Wednesday, September 17th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Schuler Books in West Bloomfield. It's a chance for the community to gain insider strategies from a distinguished lineup of writers and editors, one of whom is Susan Shapiro, a West Bloomfield native turned best-selling memoirist and acclaimed writing professor at NYU. I recently spoke with Susan to learn more about this informative panel. Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Of course, really happy to have you with us. And this panel sounds amazing. There's a lot of people in the community with a story to tell, looking to get those stories out there. And this publishing panel is going to do great things to educate that community. What motivated you to participate in the Secrets of Publishing panel?
Well, I grew up in West Bloomfield, and I come home a lot to visit my family. And when I started publishing books about 25 years ago, I always joke I publish books my family hates. But while I was in Michigan, I thought if I do a book event, then I get to write off the trip and do fun events. So I started doing them in Michigan, and they're just so much fun. And what I realized is that there's so many brilliant editors and authors and writers in Michigan. So instead of just doing them myself, I try to drag some of my students and colleagues and you know other people I know, other luminaries in the field, and we've done a whole bunch of them. This is the first one I'm doing in West Bloomfield Schulers. I did one in Grand Rapids, and that was a real schlep from West Bloomfield. So I was so excited when they opened a West Bloomfield store. And actually, here's a great story. Ooh. I have a former student online. Her name is Christine Wyman, and she took my new school class online during the pandemic. And the first assignment I give my students is write about your most humiliating secrets. So she wrote this amazing, funny piece about how she was the only one during the pandemic who liked wearing a mask because she had had cranial surgery and was very self-conscious about her chin. So she wrote this brilliant piece about it, and an editor who zoomed in from the Washington Post bought it. And when I posted it, an editor that I know fell in love with the story, and it became a best-selling kids book, a middle grade novel called Jawbreaker. So Christina, who teaches at Michigan State University, is now on her 4th book. So she has had, from Farrar, Straus, Giroux, so she has had 2 bestsellers so far. Her new one is Slouch. So when I was coming there, I mentioned to her, I'm going to try Schuler. She says, I know a contact there. I'm like, well, if you give me a contact there, you got to do it with me. So I'm dragging her so we get to tell this extremely happy story. Especially, you know, the world is kind of in a crazy place, and the publishing industry is a little bit difficult now. So it's such a happy story. And as I say to my students, 3 pages can change your life. So we're going to teach you how to do that.
I was going to say, when you said the name Christy Wyman, that name did sound familiar from the list of people who are going to be on this panel. And like Christy, you yourself have had a very extensive resume with teaching experiences, teaching for writing at both NYU and Columbia. I'm curious, how does engaging with aspiring writers in West Bloomfield differ from those teaching experiences?
Well, I got to tell you, what's really interesting is that for 25 years after I graduated University of Michigan, I came to NYU to get my graduate degree. For 25 years, I was teaching in person at NYU, the New School in Columbia. And I'm kind of a technophobe, even though I have my brother who's in Ann Arbor, Eric, is an IT genius. I'm a total technophobe. But so I was only teaching people in New York. So when I went to, during the pandemic, when I went to Zoom, I didn't have any choice. So my brother helped me figure out Zoom. So all of a sudden, I started getting students from all over, including Michigan. All the people that I knew from Michigan, friends, colleagues of all ages, and they had luck. In fact, Christina was zooming in from Lansing, Michigan. So since the pandemic, I've been teaching my own private classes online. So I have a lot of people from Michigan, a lot of people who got published. It's been very exciting. So interestingly, there's no difference now that we're all online.
That's absolutely right. And as you just said, and from what you're telling me, your courses are wildly popular. Can you describe your core teaching philosophy and how you balance realism with encouragement for new writers?
Yes, so I call my method the instant gratification takes too long method of writing, where the goal of my class is to write and publish a great piece by the end of the class. And I am fiercely honest and also inspiring. And I'll tell you a funny story about a Michigander that she knows I love this story, which is I was trying to write my own book and I was having no luck for 7 years. It was just rejection, 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 rejection. And everyone was saying to me, oh, it's so funny and it's so smart. It was about two women who switched lives. It was actually set partly in Michigan, and it was the story of my brother married a close friend of mine from Michigan, but nobody was buying it. So I showed it to Laura Berman, who was a Detroit news writer who was very, very honest. She was one of my mentors. And I said, Laura, everyone says this is great, but nobody's buying it. Tell me what's wrong with it. So Laura read it and she says, okay, number one, you have no imagination whatsoever. Stop writing fiction. She said, you're writing about an ambivalent relationship between two women. You write better about people that you love. And she said, number three, two sister-in-laws is the most boring subject in the world. Write about sex. So I said, so nobody's going to buy this? I shouldn't rewrite it? She's like, put it away. I went home crying. Happened to meet an ex from the University of Michigan that I had dinner with the next day. And then I was reading, Nick Hornby has a book called High Fidelity, where he goes back to re-meet his top 5 heartbreaks of all time. And I thought, well, the guy does it. He looks at the woman, he said, she's still hot. I'd still be with her and it's over. I said, oh my God, when I meet my exes, I'm reading diary entries from 50 years of therapy sessions, and I'm finding the gun wrapper from the first date, and I'm looking through albums. All of a sudden, I got the idea for a new book, nonfiction, about sex and people I love, called 5 Men Who Broke My Heart. That was my debut book. And ever since then, when I teach writing, I remember that as much as I want to be inspiring, I always have to tell people the truth, because the fact that Laura was the only one who told me the truth unlocked my whole career. So I'm very, very honest. My students know I'm really, really honest and yet inspiring, because it's not, I don't say, no, that'll never get published. I'll say, what you're doing right now isn't working, but why don't you try this thing?
That's right. That's exactly what a good teacher should do. Offer that little bit of realism. I love to hear it, Susan. Now, you grew up in West Bloomfield, and you're returning to speak at this local event. What does it mean to come full circle and share your expertise with your hometown community?
Well, this one is especially exciting because I'm bringing with me so many brilliant people. So Laura Berman actually introduced me to Aaron Robertson, who has an award-winning book out called The Black Utopians, and he's from Detroit. So that's really cool. Frances Wang is, she also teaches, I think, at Michigan State University. She is a poet and a writing teacher, and she has a book called You Cannot Resist Me When My Hair Is in Braids. And Christine Wyman is coming in from Lansing, and there's a writer-editor named Joe Grimm, who's actually famous at Michigan State for helping people get published. And this time around, I co-authored a really important book called American Shield with a Latino police sergeant called Aquilina Ganell, who almost got killed during January 6th, and he's flying in from D.C. So this is unbelievably exciting that I get to come with not only, Michigan luminaries, but that I'm also bringing in my co-author, and that book was on CNN and ABC and NBC, and it was a USA Today bestseller, and he's never been in Michigan. So this is going to be a very exciting event. And by the way, we're not only going to help people with books. If anybody has short pieces. So if anybody wants to do a piece for the Detroit News or the Free Press, or wants to break in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, we're going to address how to get started. And as I said, with Christine, the favorite line that I ever said to her was, 3 pages can change your life. And she's like a testimony to that, because she's really on her 4th book and 2 are big bestsellers already.
Wow, just such a wealth of knowledge to come from this panel. This is going to do so many great things for the aspiring authors of Greater West Bloomfield. For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Susan Shapiro, best-selling memoirist and writing professor at NYU, who's going to be one of the panelists at the Secrets of Publishing panel that's going to be taking place at Schuler Books in West Bloomfield on Wednesday, September 17th. Now, Susan, Michigan readers and writers have many different unique voices and stories. What advice or encouragement are you most eager to share with writers from West Bloomfield and the broader Detroit area?
Well, it's very funny you say that, because my bio reads, Susan Shapiro is the author of many books her family hates. So I will admit that what I tell my students is, the first piece you write that your family hates means that you found your voice. And I also say, write about your obsessions. So on the other hand, I've helped people publish cookbooks, and I've helped people publish biographies. So sometimes people tell me what their goal is. And if their goal is to not upset anybody in their family while getting published, we could work with that. But yeah, really, 3 pages can change your life, and go for it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people in other fields, like I had a doctor from West Bloomfield. He was an 80-year-old gynecologist who took my class online. And he published the first piece he'd ever published, and it was a hilarious piece, and was write about your most humiliating secret. And it ran in the Washington Post also, and the piece was, can you do gynecology virtually? And he had all these hilarious stories about, trying to maintain his practice and help his patients during the pandemic, and that was fantastic. And I bet that'll lead to a book. So so I always say to people, write about your most humiliating secret. And 3 pages can change your life. But, but for people that are more shy or polite, there's also, you could write fiction. Rabbi Jen Kaluzny took my class from Temple Israel. I do great events, book events at Temple Israel, and she's working on a novel, so sometimes if you don't want to, offend anybody, like I said, you could do cookbooks, you could do profiles. Aaron's book is history. The Black Utopians. There was a brilliant book by someone who also went to Roper recently called The Containment by Michelle Adams. And that was a brilliant book that was about racial tensions in education in Detroit in the 70s. And she actually just, again, third person, so you don't have to write about yourself if you don't want to. There's all kinds of ways to break in. In fact, a lot of my students do investigative pieces or profiles or book reviews. So anybody who wants to come to the event, if you have any questions, we have Francis K. Hugh Wong specializes in poetry. Christina specializes in kids' books. Joe Grimm does nonfiction. Aquilina Gunnell, interestingly, my co-author, he can explain to people, what if you have a story and you're not a writer? So how do you co-author a book, or how do you get a ghostwriter? How do you get someone to tell your story? So really, anybody that's interested in writing, if you come to ask us questions, we'll be, we're going to be really open in terms of telling you where to get started. It's kind of, I had so many fantastic mentors like Laura and at University of Michigan. And also I went to Roper. I had a fantastic teacher. My high school teacher at Roper helped me get published when I was in high school. So I want to pay it forward, because I know there were so many people who really gave me fantastic advice and helped me when I was starting out. So it's kind of a thrill to be able to, to help people. And it's very vicarious when you see someone who's just starting out that's published. It's very exciting.
I love that. And I love hearing how much this means to you, to be able to showcase your knowledge and to be able to help the next generation of writers. Now, I am curious.
I actually say that what the greatest thing is that I made so many mistakes and I had so many rejections, and it took so long. Like, I moved here when I was 20, and I didn't get my first real book until I was 43. So that's 23 years of banging my head against the wall and mistakes. So what's so wonderful about teaching and about doing panels like this is I could take every stupid mistake I made and turn it into advice that would help someone else, so they don't have to make the same mistake, so it doesn't have to take 23 years for them. So it's very cathartic. It's like, it's a huge transformation in a way to be able to turn all that. I always say writing's a way to turn your worst experiences into the most beautiful. So it's kind of that.
That's absolutely right. Susan, this has been such a delight. I can't wait to hear what's to come from this panel. I got one more quick question before we wrap things up. Do you envision returning to West Bloomfield in the future for more workshops or events? And what long-term impact would you hope to leave on the community?
Yes, I mean, I come back at least several times a year because I have so many friends and colleagues there. By the way, if anybody wants to contact me with any writing questions, I'm at profsue123@gmail.com. And you can follow me on social media or just email me any questions. And I actually have quite a few people from Michigan who I've helped get published, which is very exciting. So Christina's a student. There's a teacher at University of Michigan, Emily McLaughlin, who's published some fantastic stuff in my classes. I have quite a few colleagues. I had a colleague who, Michael, who was this was a great story. He was a Detroit News, Michael Hodges was a Detroit News editor who wrote a beautiful piece about me. And then he took my class and then he published this amazing piece in Salon, this 3,000 word fantastic piece for Gay Pride a couple years ago. So it's definitely paying it back and it's exciting. And I would say the biggest trick is, go for it. Don't be afraid. And 3 pages can change your life and you won't know until you try it. So I want to bring inspiration.
3 pages will, in fact, change your life. I love to hear it. Susan, can't wait to hear more about this panel and can't wait to see it and hope that this inspires the next generation of authors. Thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just as a reminder, the Secrets of Publishing panel is set to take place on Wednesday, September 17th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Schuler Books. Stop by to meet Susan and a bunch of other fantastic authors to hear their thoughts and to gain so much more knowledge in terms of getting your books published. Summer is just about wrapping up, but fall is approaching much sooner than you'd think. Everyone is making plans for cool outdoor events, especially weddings. Fall wedding season is upon us, and Liana Harris of Always Couture Bridal Boutique recently joined us on The Splash to tell us some important fall wedding trends and tips.
Liana, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Tyler. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you on to talk about this. It's an exciting time for these individuals that are just about to get married and those starting to plan their weddings even for next year. And maybe I'm giving it away a little bit with prefacing that before I ask. When people are looking for that perfect wedding dress, when is that process at best supposed to be beginning?
At best, at least 6 to 8 months out. So a wedding gown can take anywhere from 10 to 16 weeks to be ordered if you're doing a special order. Now, that being said, I know that things are always unpredictable and you can't always know when things are going to happen. You might get engaged and plan your wedding 2 months out and you just have to get everything together as quickly as you can. So there are always options to expedite the process. You could get a special order rushed, or you can buy off the rack, which means you could take that dress home that very day.
And so the process can be either very rushed, very quick, but you still get to the finish line in most of these cases, or it's something that can take a little bit of time and you really get to go through an extensive search. When they do that with their local bridal shop, Liana, what process do you take to help these people visualize what they want their wedding day to look like, want themselves to look like in that picture, and then best fit that benchmark?
Yeah, so the entire business model of Always Couture is really about elevating the entire experience. So we walk you through from beginning to the end. We are with you every step of the way. When you come in and get a consultation with us, you come into a beautiful, warm atmosphere. You get handed a glass of champagne. You're sitting there with your friends and your family, and I've already picked out a curated gown selection for you, so you've already got choices here waiting for you, so you don't have to spend extra time just searching through the racks. And this is all based on your preferences. We have phone calls beforehand. You fill out a profile online that tells me what style you're looking for, what your budget is, what sort of event you're having. And all of this information really helps me to specialize an experience that's tailored just for you. So you get to come in and try these beautiful gowns on and feel gorgeous and pampered and comfortable. And then we walk you through the process of purchasing and when your dress will be arriving in the store, when you'll be able to pick it up, and then we also walk you through alterations. So almost every time you buy a bridal gown, you will need something done to it, whether it's just a little nip and tuck here, a full hem, or an entire remodel, depending on the type of dress that you got. So we cover everything from day one till you pick up your dress and it is perfectly fitted to you.
And so as people begin that process, you mentioned you have phone calls, they fill out a profile. Information's always going to be king when you're trying to put together the perfect experience for someone, especially when it's for a day like this that's supposed to be one of the most special days of anybody's life. So when people are starting that process with you, Liana, what information should they be bringing to you? What questions should they be asking you to help set you up to put them in the best position?
Well, really, we only do a few basic questions. How many guests would you like to bring in with you? What is your budget? Your approximate dress size, so we know what we have in the shop that we can have you try on that will fit the most appropriately. And then, what your style preferences are. Do you prefer to have a big ball gown, or would you like something more clean cut, more modern, more vintage? The detail of what type of event you're having is also a key component, because your dress will need to fit the aesthetic of your venue or your theme a lot of the time. And of course you can mix and match, but a lot of the time you'll want to have a sort of cohesive element to the entire day. So you'll want your dress to be either sleek and modern for like a New York City kind of wedding, or you'll want something more flowy and dreamy and romantic for a backyard or a barn wedding or something like that. So we really try to listen to our brides and to hear what they are really looking for, but also to provide the expertise when they might not know exactly what it is they want. So that is one of the biggest challenges with brides walking through the door. I get it almost every time. A girl has an idea of a dress when she walks through the door, and she almost always leaves with the exact opposite of what she thinks she wants. So it's up to me and my team to have the knowledge and the experience and the respect for the bride to tell her what is going to work for her and what choices she has available that's going to give her the best outcome for what she wants.
The vision may change, but as long as they are satisfied, they're happy with what they've got, and it's fitting ultimately the vision that makes that day magical for them. That's all that matters along the way in this process. Liana Harris is with us, the owner of Always Couture Boutique, a bridal boutique in West Bloomfield, on today's edition of The Splash Live. You can get in contact with them and find more information on alwayscoutureboutique.com, as well as on Facebook at Always Couture. Liana, there's always going to be a difference when you're going for a specialty product like this between going to some of the corporate chains versus your local boutique shop. So for customers in Greater West Bloomfield and neighboring communities that are about to begin their bridal shopping process, what extra benefit do they get from shopping at one of their local shops like yours?
Oh, so much. It changes the entire experience. So when you walk into one of those bigger chains, it's usually, like going into a grocery store. There's a lot of people around. It's very hectic, it's loud. You're not going to get a lot of one-on-one attention. Even when you have a stylist that's dedicated to you, they're still going to be kind of running around and making sure that this bride is taken care of and, running in the back to grab things. They're not fully focused on you. And that is the difference. That is what you're going to get out of a smaller, more intimate boutique experience, is that when you walk through the door, you are getting personalized one-on-one attention with your stylist at all times. They are right there, dedicated just to you to make sure that your experience is the most enjoyable. And that is really the goal of my entire motivation here is, I want to sell dresses, of course, but more than anything, I want my brides to feel excited and happy and cared for throughout the entire experience while they're here with us.
And lastly, as we go into the fall wedding season, as people are making those final preparations for their weddings this fall and are preparing for those last few weeks, those last few days, the day of next fall, what are some of the common challenges that you see arise from the beginning of the process, the middle of the process as you're getting close to that final dress, and in those weeks and days leading up to wedding day that may end up getting you back involved in the process with brides-to-be?
Well, one of the most common things that I experience with brides throughout any of their planning process is it can be very overwhelming. You know, there are so many choices to make. You're working with a limited time frame no matter how far out you plan. You've got to get things together as quickly as possible. And it's, you know, there's a bit of herding cats involved when you're trying to get everything figured out with your guest list and getting people to RSVP and, you know, signing contracts with vendors. And there's so much that goes into it. And it's really, really easy to get stressed out and overwhelmed, which kind of ruins the process for you a little bit. You know, it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting. And when you're constantly worried about whether or not you're going to be able to book the right florist or whether or not your dress is going to make it to you on time, you know, it's just those little things, those little details that a place like mine helps you to take care of that really makes the difference. And like I said, we take care of a person from stepping through the door the first day in the shop to all the way at the end of alterations. I've been a bridal seamstress for my entire life. I'd say about 27, 28 years. And people look at me funny whenever I say that because I don't look like I should have been doing this that long, but I've been sewing since I was 6 years old. And I've been working on bridal gowns since I was in high school. I've got education, background, experience, and I've had various mentorships with some of the best seamstresses in the state. So that is also one of the big things that differs from my boutique as opposed to others, is that me and my team are all experienced in alterations. So we know how dresses are constructed. We're familiar with textiles and quality. So not only do you get the expertise behind making this dress everything that you're wanting it to be, but we also curate a quality selection of gowns because we are familiar with what quality is, what makes a gown fit appropriately, what makes a type of textile, type of fabric worth putting into a bridal gown. You know, what makes a good fabric versus a bad fabric, and how it's going to drape and how it's going to fit. All of these are benefits that you get when you work with us because it helps to, like I said, elevate the experience. You're getting so much more than just a shopping experience. You're really getting one-on-one advice and expertise and really just a specialized process from the beginning to the end.
The personalization plays a big role in this, especially when you want to fit the image of your perfect day and stand out from all the other weddings throughout the summer and the fall. Liana, thank you so much for your time today and for introducing us to your local business here in West Bloomfield.
Thank you for having me.
There's going to be so many beautiful weddings in the months to come throughout the fall season, and it's great that we have resources like Always Couture Bridal Boutique in the community to help make those fantastic weddings come alive. We're going to take a quick break and jump into some more stories right here on The Splash Live right after this. Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Hi, I'm Marcia Gershenson, and I'm one of the Oakland County Commissioners that's lucky enough to represent West Bloomfield. And I'd like to congratulate Civic Center TV on having 1 million viewers on YouTube. I mean, that's incredible. Your viewpoint and your authenticity is so valuable. So congratulations on 1 million views. I'm proud to be one in a million.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kids should know.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those barbecues you plan in detail for your family? Or your daughter's first costume party? It was out of this world. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Bringing you stories and memories from Sylvan Lake, Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social. It's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Sheff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. One of the most anticipated additions to the West Bloomfield community is the soon-to-be implemented brand new West Bloomfield Connect Senior Center. And just recently, Kelly Heyer of West Bloomfield Parks provided some very important updates and some theories and some updates and some theories on when this new building will be open to the public. We recently spoke to her on The Splash Live.
Kelly, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Good morning, Tyler.
Yeah, good morning. Glad to have you on the program with us. You gave an update to the Township Board recently about where the project is at for the community. I'm sure they're very excited a year later after voting through the bond to get an update on where we're looking at for the future of that massive Connect Community Center at the Civic Center complex. This is what was proposed at the time of the bond a year ago. A lot has changed since then. Where's the project at as we speak?
Oh, that's a loaded question, Tyler. But to simplify it, we are still in the planning design phase. So with any kind of construction project, those of you listening at home, maybe you're familiar with the residential update, but on the commercial level, there's a lot more behind the scenes that go into it. And so when the image that was just shown, that was our rendering created a couple years ago in order to prepare for the bond campaign, the public information that we wanted to share to the voters on what it could be. So after hiring and onboarding our architect firm, our engineer, our landscape architect, as well as our geotechnical engineer, our interior designer, low voltage, things are progressing, and we're able to make better informed decisions given the exact site placement of the building. So right now, it's August. We are in the middle of developmental design, and that means we've gone through concept design as well as schematic design. So the floor plans are settling down. We're focusing on the exterior facade, the materials, how do we break up the big building into smaller sections so it doesn't seem so big on this campus. And what we're talking about is a building that is over 46,000 square feet. So if you measure exterior wall, it is just over 48,000. But the first floor is under 28,000 square feet. And the first floor is bigger than the second floor. However, it encompasses the gymnasium, the welcome center, as well as the nature center on the first floor. And the second floor will be more multi-purpose space and where the staff is, as well as access to the track. So when you fit all those amenities in, and given the site that we have to work with on the campus, the building ended up being very long and linear. And so we've broken the building up into 3 different components. And so right now it is figuring out, all right, do we have the front entrance right? Do we have what we need for that faces the parking lot, that faces the woodland wetlands? And so making all of those decisions and making it so that It is, we have the ability to talk about it internally as staff and figure out operational and maintenance-wise what is the best approach to these different sections. So there's a lot of discussions behind the scenes, Tyler, a lot of intentional meetings. We have a lot of different agendas, different of our consultants behind the scenes having those conversations every day. And then professionally, we report to the commission, staff does. And so then we take all of these decisions that staff is recommending to the commission level. Park Commission has a conversation, discussion, approve what they need to. And then it's what you're referencing Monday night is Park Commission does report monthly to the Township Board on this project because it's a partnership. We have different authority that the Park Commission is allowed with statute, what we can decide ourselves and what we need to take to Township Board. And budget is definitely one thing. Statutorily, we need to report to the township. So that's a long-winded answer, but to very specifically, we are still settling in the design phase and making decisions that with our professionals that we've hired for this project.
And economically, that's the most sound thing to do because you want to make sure you have a pretty concrete plan come your January 2026 estimate for starting the construction phase of this project, especially where we're at in our economy with tariffs and with the supply chain still very much affecting the overall cost of this project and wanting to stay within budget. But Kelly, some of the concepts that were really critical to the design phase and continue to be in this design phase, respect for nature, biomimicry, community outreach, most importantly, being a good neighbor, those all kind of encompass themselves in some of the key changes to the plan that came into the most recent presentation at the August 11th Township Board meeting. Previously, it was conceptualized to maintain at least a portion, if not the entirety, of the current Recreation Activity Center in the plans for the future Connect Community Center. Now that's different. That building is currently under this plan going to be demolished, mostly to make space for the building to, again, fit that footprint on the Civic Center complex, but also, most importantly, to allow that footprint to be minimally effective on the nature surrounding that building. That was a really critical part and continues to be in your planning phase, correct?
Well said, Tyler. So if you want to show back that rendering or put the rendering back on the screen, on the green side, the west side of the site plan, we are taking down the building, so 3/4 of the building can be put back to nature. What we've noticed is this campus, we need a gathering space. And right now, for example, we have Food Truck Tuesdays that happen in between us and the library, but the food truck has to be parked in the parking lot, and it is not the best design for that. So we're making more intentional gathering space outside our building. And that's to celebrate nature. The trailhead is right there. Our outdoor natural area, play area will be expanded. And it's going to be a better user experience in nature. And we needed to put back more green space on the west side. So that is in the light green there that you can see. And then the other colors that are blacked out, you can see the 3 sections of the building. So the connected to nature makes most sense is the nature center. And on the second floor is staff. And then as you move east, the middle part of the building, that is where you would enter the welcome customer service, multi-purpose space, and then upstairs is senior lounge space, as well as our dedicated gaming room, lecture room, where the furniture can be card tables set up all day. And then the east side of the building, where it is the high school gymnasium, high school size, and that gets you bottom floor where you can do pickleball, our larger group fitness classes, and then the elevated track will be directly above it. And so that is a big space. So if you look on the floor plans, the gymnasium, the track is 1/3 of the building. And so that's where a ton of square footage had to go in that direction. So that's just under 10,000 square feet itself on that right-hand east side of the building.
Yeah, a lot of recreation space still planned in this building. A lot of those original amenities that were proposed, that were discussed pre-bond and were ultimately agreed upon by the township's electorate still going to be a factor in this? That's what most people on the day-to-day listening today, watching today, or in the future on CivicCenterTV.com want to know about. All these changes, of course, affect the space that these programs will ultimately be in. So what are we looking at right now in terms of where these plans are at, what's sort of been changed, and how those spaces for these amenities are being affected by some of these modifications in the plan at this stage of the process?
Right. So price has to drive much of our discussion. So as you heard in our budget update, both with the Park Commission and Township Board, consideration for tariffs and still putting in a good contingency. We are spending more than we anticipated within the bond dollars, so that warrants a discussion for the other projects we still want to accomplish. So with that said, we still aren't getting exactly everything we want. In fact, the question came up the other night, would you build a bigger building if you could? Absolutely, because we know the residents deserve all the public, multi-generational, recreational and leisure space indoors. But we've had to make some decisions. So we made a couple slices through the building, so it's still going to be very user-friendly. The square footages of the multi-purpose spaces are still great spaces, better than what we have right now. And so if you're at the Recreation Activity Center, that building, the entire building with staff is 8,400 square feet. So if you keep that into context, with the nature center that we currently have and the 2 multi-purpose rooms, we're doubling in the public space as far as square footage, plus adding the gymnasium. So we're still able to have group fitness, Tyler, the lectures, card gaming, the discovery days in the nature center, all of this, and it's going to be better spaces. So right now, unfortunately, you do look at the parking lots. It's very limited windows that we have both here at the Recreation Activity and the current Connect building that we rent at Simsbury. So we've been able to maintain those square footages. We had to reduce on storage, which goes against our principle in Parks and Recreation, because we just don't like the clutter and equipment and supplies sitting out. So we've made some really smart decisions how we can do that better. And then we've had to, again, minimize a couple square feet on some of the multi-purpose rooms, but we've still maintained everything we promised, plus done better on our circulation in the hallways, the corridors, and we've done better on delivering the requested additional seating and lounge space, like the drop-in space that we heard through our stakeholder conversations that everybody did desire. So we're trying to listen to the residents, still incorporate their ideas and what's important to them. Our instructors are critical in this process, getting their buy-in. But all in all, we've been able to maintain all of those things that we've been able to adhere to. The other great thing is that our landscape architects we've hired have come up with some really creative spaces outside that the campus and our residents are going to be able to use. It's going to be really exciting. We're in the middle of our design development phase. So soon, and we were hoping by the end of the summer, we'll start showing some more of those renderings, all the sides of the building, including some interiors. So stay tuned. Civic Center TV, you'll be the first to know to help us roll out our public update on the building. But we've still got to go through the next couple of weeks and crunch down, make sure that we're getting this right. The rendering that you do see that you've used, that we used in the presentation, is from June. So we've made significant modifications to that. And again, it is based on stakeholder feedback. And we want the people using this building and the staff operating it to be really satisfied to be able to deliver the next 30 years on recreation and leisure services.
Yeah, you want to get this right. You're consolidating all of those different facilities that house staff for West Bloomfield Parks, of course, Connect Senior Center, all that recreation space and more to make this a great amenity centralized at the Civic Center complex. Kelly Heyer is with us, the Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks, with updates on the Connect Community Center project currently underway right now. They're in the planning phase still, hoping in the coming weeks to have more of these plans locked down, start getting into the permit phase as we get into the fall. And the goal still by the turn of the year 2026 to begin construction on that project. Kelly, a couple more questions for you. It's really important in this also, and you mentioned it briefly earlier on, keeping in mind that this bond was not only for the Connect Community Center, but also for really important projects, kind of smaller projects in scope, but very, very, very important maintenance projects for going forward at some of our parks, including Marshbank. So how much of a factor does that also play, especially on the financial side, the planning side, to make this great extensive building, but not take away from the necessity to still do these other projects?
That's a great question. And to answer that, I want to touch back on the budget process for the building. And if those of you listening at home go back and listen to both Park Commission updates for July as well as the Township Board update I just gave in August, you'll hear me reference to 3 phases of the budget. So when it comes to this big community center project, we have budget check-in points after each phase of our design. So the next couple weeks, we'll be receiving the design set from our architects and engineers on the design development phase. And so we'll be working with our cost estimators to check in. Are we still on track with the estimated now at $24.5 million for the budget? And that still includes the contingencies. So then what happens to the other projects? Tyler, to your question, what is our approach there? And with Parks and Recreation, we are project managing all day long, whether it's events, all the enhancements that you've seen the last 55 years with West Bloomfield Parks. So we've, for example, you'll hear me reference when we built Lily Pad Springs. That was a budget that we had saved up for and a project that we knew we were funding internally with prior year funds as well as the taxpayer dollars that come in. And so that's the same approach that we tackle our capital improvement projects. And we have a 10-year plan that is a rolling plan where we take and look at the park system as a whole, figure out what is our deferred maintenance, what are the enhancements we want to add to, the amenities we add to, what kind of park property do we want to acquire, and all of that is into our CIP project discussion. So with the pickleball courts at Drake Sports Park, the Marshbank Park paving project, as well as the playgrounds we've talked to, the Marshbank paving was the first thing on the list, and we did commence that project August 1st. And the great news about that, when we went into this paving project, we knew it was a 3-year phase, and we had estimated $1 million for each phase. Going off of Drake Sports Park, we had just done that park. And we were really lucky on our bidders. The entire project will be $1.9 million. So it is under budget, and only 1/3 of that project will be paid for by bond dollars. So at this time, there's little wiggle room for that, but we will be figuring out Drake Sports Park as well as the playgrounds in our CIP conversation in the next budget year. So for those residents, rest assured, West Bloomfield Parks, we continue to deliver amazing amenities, and we're really proud that our residents do support us. So there is not a big list of deferred maintenance, and we're able to tackle that. So more to come on that specifically, but we know about it early on and able to strategize with the park commissioners to make sure that our residents get the amenities that we have promised them.
And all the powers that be definitely also a factor in this planning process from the Parks and Recreation Commission. They're overseeing this. They're talking about this in their public meetings, including their televised monthly meetings. So, same goes with the West Bloomfield Township Board. If you want to see those presentations, civiccentertv.com in our on-demand section. The July 23rd West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation Commission meeting was their most recent presentation there. And then the Township Board, they did a presentation with the latest budget information and design information. That's the August 11th meeting. Again, civiccentertv.com. We're joined by Kelly Heyer, Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks. That's the update on the Connect Community Center. Kelly, thank you so much for your time today.
Great questions, Tyler. Happy to be on.
Can't wait to see the brand new Connect Senior Center once it makes its way to West Bloomfield. And if you want to stay up to date on more updates from around the greater West Bloomfield community, you can just head over to our website, civiccentertv.com, or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now to be taken directly to our website to stay up to date on all of our news. But that's going to do it for us today here on the Splash Live. Big thank you to all of our guests and for everybody on the Splash Live team for helping to make this show possible. I've been your host, Jake Schaff. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.